They say the ultimate betrayal never comes from your enemies. It comes from the people you built a ceiling for, only for them to look down on you from the roof. It was exactly 4:14 p.m. on a Tuesday when my only son, Julian, slid a crisp, white manila envelope across the Italian marble kitchen island I paid for. He wouldn't look me in the eye. Instead, he adjusted his designer watch, a graduation gift from me, and told me I had 30 days to vacate the premises. My own home. The estate I spent a decade drafting, constructing, and filling with memories after his mother passed. He thought he found a legal loophole through a trust structure we set up years ago. He thought he was finally the man of the house, outsmarting his aging, retired father. What Julian completely failed to realize, because his arrogance had blinded his intelligence, was that the local institution holding the primary note and the underlying corporate debt on that very trust wasn't just a faceless corporation. It belonged to a regional banking conglomerate I quietly acquired a majority stake in 3 years ago. He thought he was evicting a helpless old man. He didn't know I owned the bank. You have to understand where I come from to realize why that moment in the kitchen broke something irreversible inside of me. I grew up in the Rust Belt during the collapse of the manufacturing sector. My father was a machinist who gave 40 years of his life to a factory, only to be handed a pink slip and a hollow handshake when the global markets shifted. I watched him sit at our Formica kitchen table, staring at past due notices, his hands calloused and his spirit entirely broken. That image became the foundational architecture of my mind. I vowed with a fierce, almost toxic desperation, that I would never allow a system or a man to dictate my worth or my security. I moved to Chicago in my 20s with nothing but a beat-up sedan and a degree from a state college that nobody respected. I started in commercial real estate, working 80-hour weeks, surviving on cold coffee and the adrenaline of survival. I didn't just learn the business, I mastered the invisible machinery of finance. I learned how debt moved, how equity could be leveraged, and how a piece of paper could hold more power than a physical army. Within 15 years, I had founded my own firm. We weren't just buying buildings, we were reshaping blocks. When Julian was born, I looked at his tiny, unblemished hands in the hospital room and made a second vow. I told myself he would never know the suffocating weight of scarcity. He would never hear his parents whispering about utility bills in the dark. I wanted to give him a launchpad, a head start that would place him decades ahead of where I began. But in my obsession with shielding him from the cold, harsh realities of the world, I committed the greatest mistake a self-made man can make. I forgot that the very winter I fought so hard to escape was exactly what gave me the strength to build the fire in the first place. By removing every obstacle from his path, I inadvertently removed his capacity for resilience, gratitude, and basic human empathy. Julian grew up in an environment where luxury wasn't earned, it was atmospheric. It was the air he breathed. Private academies, seasonal trips to the European coast, and an unspoken assumption that the world owed him a perpetual first-class seat. His mother, the gentle anchor of my life, passed away from an aggressive illness when he was 14. Her absence left a cavernous void in our lives, and in my profound grief and guilt over the endless hours I spent building the business, I tried to fill that void with material indulgence. Every time I felt the ache of her absence, I bought Julian a new dirt bike, a premium upgrade, a blank check. By the time he returned from an Ivy League university, a tenure funded entirely by my endowments, he didn't just possess a degree, he possessed an insufferable veneer of intellectual superiority. He looked at my old-school, relationship-driven business model as archaic. He started pushing for modern, aggressive syndications, wanting to liquidate our legacy assets for high-risk, short-term digital plays. I welcomed him into the firm as a partner, hoping the weight of responsibility would ground him. Instead, it inflated his ego to a dangerous pressure. He began surrounding himself with a specific crowd of young, wealthy sycophants in the city. People who knew the price of everything and the value of absolutely nothing. He started showing up to executive meetings late, his eyes bloodshot, dismissing seasoned vice presidents who had been with me since Julian was wearing diapers. I noticed small discrepancies in his expense accounts, high-stakes lifestyle inflation, and a growing resentment in the way he spoke to me. He began treating me not as his mentor or his father, but as a bureaucratic obstacle standing between him and the throne. He wanted the empire, but he didn't want the wisdom required to keep it from crumbling. 6 months ago, Julian approached me with a proposal regarding our primary family estate, the 5-acre property in Connecticut where his mother's ashes are scattered in the garden. He came to me with an uncharacteristic display of warmth, carrying a leather-bound folder of legal documents. He argued that for tax mitigation, generational estate planning, and wealth preservation, we needed to move the primary residence into a standalone asset management trust. He suggested that he be named the managing trustee, while I would retain a lifetime tenancy agreement. "It protects you, Dad," he said, his voice smooth, rehearsed, mimicking the cadence of a trusted advisor. "If the markets turn, or if there's ever a liability issue with the new commercial acquisitions, the house remains completely untouched. It's a clean shield." I looked into his eyes during that meeting. I saw a flicker of something unsettled, a micro-expression of anxiety that I foolishly interpreted as a young man nervous about handling major family legacy decisions. I trusted him. Not because the math made perfect sense, but because he was my son, and a father wants to believe his child is capable of looking out for him. I signed the documents, believing I was empowering him to step into his role as the guardian of our family's future. What I didn't do, and this was my singular monumental oversight, was deeply audit the secondary addendums he slipped into the final closing packet through an external boutique law firm he had recently retained. Julian had quietly inserted a behavior and solvency clause into the trust agreement. If the primary occupant, me, exhibited signs of cognitive decline, or engaged in actions deemed detrimental to the fiscal health of the trust assets, or if the occupant failed to comply with certain newly established, arbitrary residential maintenance fees, the managing trustee held the unilateral right to terminate the occupancy lease. He built a legal cage, handed me a gold-plated pen, and watched me walk right into it with a smile on my face. That brings us back to that quiet, devastating Tuesday afternoon in the kitchen. The white envelope sat between us like an unexploded explosive device. "What is this, Julian?" I asked, my voice completely level, devoid of the panic he was likely expecting. "It's business, Dad," he replied, crossing his arms, leaning back against the counter. "The trust has restructured. We're moving the asset into a high-yield corporate lease agreement with a multinational hospitality group. The upkeep on this place is bleeding the firm's liquidity, and frankly, you don't need 5 acres and 12 bedrooms anymore. I've secured a very comfortable, fully assisted luxury condominium for you downtown. It's time to let go of the past." He was throwing me out of the house I built for his mother. He was erasing the last physical sanctuary of our family history for a marginal bump in a corporate balance sheet to impress his social circle. He cited the clause, claiming that my refusal to approve his new, highly volatile tech syndication fund constituted a detrimental action to the fiscal health of the estate, thereby violating the terms of my tenancy. "I have the legal authority here," he added, his voice hardening, trying to convince himself as much as me. "The law is entirely on my side. I suggest you pack your personal items before it becomes a public embarrassment for both of us." I didn't yell. I didn't throw a tantrum. I didn't remind him of the nights I stayed up holding his forehead when he was feverish, or the millions I spent rescuing him from his own reckless mistakes in college. I simply picked up the envelope, looked at the signature of the boutique law firm, and nodded slowly. I saw the triumphant smirk spread across his face, the look of a young king who thought he had successfully dethroned the old lion without a single scratch. He turned on his heel and walked out of the house, leaving me alone in the silence of my memories. But as soon as the heavy oak front door clicked shut, the grief in my chest transformed into something else. It transformed into the cold, calculating clarity that allowed me to conquer the real estate markets 30 years ago. He wanted to play the game of high-stakes legal warfare. He forgot who wrote the playbook. The next morning, I didn't call a defense attorney. I didn't call the media. Instead, I drove downtown to a nondescript, highly exclusive private office building on Michigan Avenue. I bypassed the standard reception and took a private elevator to the penthouse floor of Vanguard Centennial Holdings, a low-profile, multi-billion-dollar private equity firm I established over a decade ago to manage my highly diversified, off-book acquisitions. I called an emergency meeting with my senior general counsel and the chief investment officer. I laid Julian's trust documents on the glass conference table. Audit the debt structure on Julian's management trust and his primary operating firm immediately, I instructed calmly. It took my team exactly 45 minutes to uncover the systemic vulnerability Julian had exposed himself to. To fund his aggressive, unauthorized expansions and maintain his lavish lifestyle, Julian hadn't just relied on family money. He had taken out a massive, $30 million commercial facility loan, leveraging the management trust and the Connecticut estate as collateral. That loan was held by Sovereign First National Bank, a prominent regional institution. My chief investment officer looked up from his monitor, a subtle, knowing smile appearing on his face. Sovereign First National, sir. As you know, through our Q3 acquisitions 2 years ago, Vanguard Centennial acquired a 62% controlling voting interest in their parent holding company. Effectively, you are the ultimate credit authority for that entire institution. Julian's entire lifestyle, his legal funds, his corporate structure, and the very eviction order he served me were completely reliant on a line of credit issued by a bank whose board of directors answered directly to me. He had built his entire fortress of cards on my land, using my money, and had the absolute audacity to try and lock me out of the gate. Call an extraordinary meeting of the Risk Management and Credit Compliance Committee at Sovereign First National for 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, I said, leaning back in my leather chair. We are going to conduct a comprehensive, unforgiving review of Julian's debt-to-income ratio, his unauthorized asset transfers, and his immediate liquidity solvency. If there is a single technical breach in his loan covenants, accelerate the note. Demand full repayment of the $30 million. Within 48 hours. 48 hours later, I was sitting in my usual armchair in the formal living room of my estate, watching the fire crackle in the hearth. The 30-day eviction notice was resting on the side table, serving as a coaster for my scotch. At exactly 7:30 p.m., the front door burst open. Julian practically sprinted into the room, his tie completely undone, his hair disheveled, his face pale and glistening with sweat. The arrogant composure he possessed on Tuesday had completely evaporated. He looked like a man who had just looked over the edge of a cliff and felt the ground beneath his feet beginning to give way. "Dad," he gasped, his voice cracking with panic. "Something insane is happening. Sovereign First National just froze all of our corporate operating accounts. They've issued a formal notice of technical default on our primary commercial facility. They're demanding a full acceleration of the $30 million note by Monday morning, or they're initiating a total asset foreclosure on everything. The firm, the trust, this house, everything. It's impossible. We've never missed a single interest payment. It's a bureaucratic hit job. I need you to call your old contacts. I need you to bail us out, or we lose everything." I took a slow, deliberate sip of my scotch, letting the silence stretch between us until the only sound in the room was his ragged breathing. I looked at him, really looked at him, not with anger, but with a profound, aching sadness for the monster my indulgence had created. "Julian," I said softly, my voice cutting through his panic like a scalpel. "Sit down." "Dad, you don't understand. We don't have time to sit down. The lawyers say." "I told you to sit down," I repeated, my tone dropping an octave, carrying the immense, crushing weight of an absolute authority he had never heard before. He sank into the opposite sofa, his hands trembling. I reached over, picked up the white manila envelope, and tossed it gently onto his lap. The law is a beautiful, clinical thing, isn't it? You spent months studying the fine print of my trust to find a way to strip your father of his dignity, to throw me out of the home your mother designed. You thought you were a genius because you found a loophole in a tenancy agreement. Julian stared at me, his eyes widening as a horrific, dawning realization began to take shape behind his eyes. What are you talking about? The bank doesn't have a bureaucratic error, Julian, I said, leaning forward, looking directly into his soul. The Risk Management Committee acted on my explicit authorization. Vanguard Centennial Holdings owns Sovereign First National. I own Vanguard, which means my son. I own the paper that dictates your entire existence. You wanted to use the cold, unfeeling machinery of the law to evict your father. So, I used that exact same machinery to audit you. And you have been found entirely wanting. He went completely breathless. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The very man he tried to discard like an old piece of furniture was the only pillar holding his entire sky from falling. "Dad, please," he stammered, tears of sheer terror finally forming in his eyes. I was just trying to secure the firm's future. It was just a business strategy. I didn't mean, you're my father. You can't let them ruin me. I'll tear up the eviction notice. I'll dissolve the trust. Please, Dad. Fix this. I stood up, walking over to the window, looking out at the dark Connecticut woods. This was the moment of ultimate calculation. I had the power to completely destroy his career, to repossess every luxury item he owned, to leave him with absolutely nothing, forcing him to experience the exact brutal winter I fought so hard to survive in my youth. I could break him entirely, teach him the ultimate lesson of humility through total financial ruin. Or I could intervene, accept his hollow apology, restructure the debt, and preserve the fragile illusion of our family. If I ruined him, I would prove my absolute power, but I would lose my son forever to bitterness and resentment. If I saved him, I risked reinforcing his belief that no matter how monstrously he behaved, his father's safety net would always appear to catch him. It was a choice between the cold justice of an empire builder and the desperate mercy of a lonely father. I turned back to look at him, this boy I had raised, reduced to a trembling shell on my sofa. I had already made my decision, a decision that would alter the trajectory of both of our lives forever. We live in a world obsessed with winning, obsessed with leverage, power, and the ultimate upper hand. We build empires of paper and gold, forgetting that the thinnest sheet of betrayal can cut deeper than any blade. I taught my son exactly who I am. But in doing so, I had to face the mirror and realize exactly what my wealth had cost me. I want to ask you, the person listening to this right now, if you were standing in my shoes, looking at the child you gave everything to, the child who tried to throw you into the cold for a corporate promotion, what would you have done? Would you have accelerated that note, signed the foreclosure papers, and let him hit the absolute rock bottom of reality to save his soul? Or would you have swallowed your pride, torn up the eviction notice, and protected your only blood, even if it meant knowing he only loved the safety net, and not the man who built it? Let me know in the comments below. Did I do the right thing? Because to this day, I still don't know.